Well, the Indian Union Minister Piyush Goyal at the World Economic Forum in Davos has stressed that the country's economy is now well poised to take off, saying the sentiment was enthusiastic, as well as saying that, that Britain, is all set to leave the European Union by the end of this month. And the minister also said India is keen to increase its trade with both entities, and for that, the Indian government will hold discussions with Britain and the European Union on free trade agreements. Listen in to what he said and what were the key points of his discussion.
I believe the economy is well poised to take off from here, and the government is committed to ensuring that all of us work together to make that happen. Export financing, as a part of the overall cleaning up process, also went through its stress. And I think over the last couple of years, we saw export financing fall by about 30-35%. When I came into the Commerce Ministry, we sat down with Mr. Rajneesh Kumar and several other bankers, and we worked as joint stakeholders, as partners in trying to right-size this problem. And we came up with a solution in about 2 months' time. Very soon, in the next week maybe, you'll be hearing an announcement of a new scheme for export financing, where we are backstopping any losses that exports could lead to for any of the banks, up to the extent of 90% on principal and interest. Now that straight away moves any credit given to exporters, whether in foreign currency or in Indian rupees, to a AA rated credit. With that, they don't need too much capital. With that, they're much more confident to lend. The ECGC, the Export Credit Guarantee Corporation, will support with a 90% guarantee of repayment in case they have a loss. We've liberalized the rules. They actually wrote down the policy. The bankers wrote the policy, which we have adopted. And our expectation is that in the next 3 years, we'll double the outstanding. Actually, no, 2.5 times. Will be 250% of the current outstanding on export credit. Dollar credits will be available at LIBOR plus between 100 to 150 basis points. And rupee credit will be available, and hear this carefully, at repo-linked rates, repo plus 150 to 200 basis points. Now, that will make us comparable to any level of interest costs anywhere in the world.
Piyush Goyal also said India was not willing to engage with Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership or RCEP unless there's a greater degree of transparency. He added that it could only happen if member nations would engage in open government regulatory practices and provide greater market access for Indian goods and services on a reciprocal basis.
RCEP was an unbalanced trade agreement, which was really not fulfilling the guiding principles on which RCEP was started about 8 years ago. And therefore, India chose not to participate in it. Out of the RCEP countries, we already have trade agreements bilaterally with the ASEAN 10 countries, with Japan and Korea. We are close to, any case, we were close to concluding negotiations with Australia, which we have restarted now. And I think in the next 6 or 8 months, we can quite easily close a bilateral comprehensive partnership agreement with Australia. So the only country left would be New Zealand, with whom we have about $300-400 million trade, and not much potential with the small population that they have. They are rather looking for Indian market, which we can't open for dairy. So China was the only country left. And effectively, RCEP was becoming a free trade agreement between China and India. And I don't think India is ready to engage unless we see greater degree of transparency, open government, regulatory practices being followed, and a greater market access for Indian goods and services.
All right, and now joining us live from Davos is WION Sumit Chaturvedi. Sumit, thanks very much indeed for talking to us. Now, of course, you've been keeping a close watch on all the developments. Let's begin with Piyush Goyal's comments there, saying that the economy is likely to take off very soon. The sentiment is enthusiastic, talking about the overall global global sentiment as far as the economy is concerned. Take us through all the highlights of what he had to say.
Well, yes, he's quite optimistic about Indian economy today. In the evening, he will have a roundtable with Indian CEOs where he will talk to them about different policy measures that are required to bring economy back on track. Well, it's not a surprise that overall the things which have been going on from the past few months in India, they have brought overall economy not back to track as expected. A lot of measures were announced over the last few months, but they have so far not shown any results, not big results, I would say that. Yes, today he spoke on a number of issues ranging from RCEP, where India has clearly shown its position that they are not going to budge in front of the other countries. Well, for them, the interest of India, it lies the first. So that's what actually today was the core point of Piyush Goyal, the Commerce Minister's overall discussion and even a conference also. Moving from there, and he's of the view that Indian growth story will come back. We spoke to a number of CEOs. They're also of the opinion that Indian growth story will come back, but it's not going to come back in the next few quarters. Well, definitely the GDP growth rate will surpass 5% in the next few quarters, but it will not touch 8% in the very medium term or long term. So number of steps for that have to be taken as well. So Piyush Goyal, Commerce Minister, is leading the overall delegation here of Indian CEOs. It's second largest delegation in Davos this year. Piyush Goyal, he met WTO officials, he met Commerce Ministers of many other countries on the sidelines of the conference here, and today evening he will meet CEOs. So definitely a lot of discussions will happen on how to bring economy back on track, because it's clearly we have been coming here from 2018 and the pessimism is unparalleled. Optimism was there in 2018. There was excitement all around India. India was the time where everybody was cheering for India. 2019 was, I would say that, over a cold year because elections were happening in India and a lot of expectations were then building up next year for 2020. That something will happen in 2020 and big announcements could come. But on the contrary, pessimism has deepened and overall gloom and doom about the Indian economy. That is the buzzword right now among Indian CEOs.
Right.
So Commerce Minister here with his whole delegation, he's trying to talk to them, getting more details, but that's not coming through.
Right, absolutely. And of course, what else has been the highlight at Davos? We know that trade negotiations, the global overall slowdown, and of course climate change there have been dictating what setting the agenda there really for Davos, even as you rightly said that industrialists, at least big corporations, still seem to be bullish on India and Asia.
Well, yes, you rightly pointed out climate protests are something which we haven't seen ever before. This, for the first time, you've seen teenage climate activists are coming forward. They are now talking about how sustainable growth is required, how balancing the profitability with environment consciousness is need of the hour, and it cannot be delayed any further. These are the issues. But I would say that the first 2 days were clearly overtaken by Trump and his speeches, because again, US President, he's the most powerful person in the world, and the CEOs were lining up to listen to what Trump had to say. Though he made a lot of noises, he actually on ground did not give any clear message, but yes, he made a lot of noises for which he's known for. Overall, it's been 2 days of buzzing activity